He swung a baseball bat within inches of my daughter's head, and for a second I forgot how to breathe. I don't mean scared, I mean every muscle in my body went quiet, like the world had muted itself. That was the moment I understood this wasn't about a lawn or a complaint or who left their trash can out. This was about power, and they thought they could take ours. My name's Ben Carter. We moved to Redwood Ridge for the same reasons everyone moves to a place like that: good schools, neighbors who wave, a yard where a kid could learn to ride a bike. Riley and Maya and I painted the picket fence ourselves the first Saturday we were there. And for a while, it smelled like freedom sawdust and coffee and the kind of optimism you only get before the bills start arriving. Then the first letter from the HOA landed on our Matone page, typed, polite but cold. Violation, decorative structure not in compliance. Attached was a photo of our porch light, taken from an angle that made it look like a crime scene. We fixed the light. They sent another letter. Then another. It escalated fast, and not by accident. Evelyn Price, the HOA president, wore her entitlement like a designer coat, and she had people who would do what she wanted. Her son Derek had that same smirk you see on guys who think consequences are suggestions. The first real confrontation was at the school pickup. Maya and some kid from Evelyn's house got into a tiff about a soccer ball. Derek pushes, Maya cries, and Evelyn appears like a bad thundercloud, cool, polished, and ready to say what she needed to say to make it someone else's fault. Then she shoved a statement into the principal's hands as if it were gospel. An unfortunate accident, she said. The principal nodded, and that should have been the end of it, but of course it wasn't. After that, nights got weird. Garden gnomes disappeared, tire marks showed up in our flower beds, and a van with no logos rolled slowly past our house at odd hours. Once, there were footprints on the porch, a purposely dampened hose left flung across the lawn, a message implied but not written. We are watching. I tried to talk it out the way you do: courtesy, neighbors talk. Is there a problem? But words got swallowed by paperwork. Every time we went to the HOA office or the board meeting, Evelyn had a folder thicker than our mortgage statement. People nodded at her, and the rules were quoted like scripture. There's a weird kind of violence in being gaslit by neighbors. It's slow, like mold. You start looking at your own yard differently. You measure your grass like you're defusing a bomb. You stop inviting people over because an invitation could be evidence. For us, the real line came when Derek stepped over it. He and two friends decided to teach Maya a lesson, and that's when the bat happened right under the big elm tree, at 7 in the evening, with the sun slipping away. He said, loud enough for the whole cul-de-sac to hear, "Get out of our way, or I'll make you." He meant it. What we did next had to be smarter than anger. I'm not a hero. I fix dishwashers for a living, and I'm stubborn, but Riley reminded me we had to be smart. So we stopped playing by their rules and started documenting everything. We set up a cheap doorbell camera, one of those things that chirps whenever someone walks by. We bought a weatherproof cam that hides in a birdhouse. Riley learned to edit clips and mark timestamps like a detective. Little things matter. A timestamp that shows Derek's truck near our yard at 11:14 p.m., a clip of two men carrying something up our walk at midnight, the van's license plate glinting in the grainy footage. We printed the evidence, we backed it up, and we stopped being silent. The neighbor network was the real turning point. There's always someone who knows something: an old guy who mows at dawn, a teacher who saw the chat messages, a woman named Anna who kept copies of the HOA emails she'd been sent over the years. Lou, the kind of retired Marine who smelled like sweat, and Truth had been quietly watching too. He told me, "Ben, if you want to fix this, stop trying to be nice to the ones who are being cruel. Build the proof and bring people with you." So we did. People started sharing their small humiliations tickets for imaginary things, photos staged to make a complaint look legitimate, threats disguised as rules. Then we found the chat. It was stupid and careless, and the only thing they forgot, Derek bragged. Somewhere in a private group, he typed, "Mom handled the principal. We got away with it. Told the boys to plant the hose, worked like a charm." That one message was a detonator. Riley exported everything, showed it to the neighbors, and suddenly the little slights assembled into a pattern. It wasn't random, it was coordinated. We didn't go to the police first. We went to the one place they never expected to fail them, the community meeting. The HOA held their monthly gathering in the church basement, folding chairs, coffee urns, Evelyn at the head of the table like a queen. I remember standing up with the projector remote in my hands, feeling my fingers tremble. I could have yelled, Could have thrown the footage on the screen and cussed them all out. Instead, I spoke like I was telling a story, because that's what people listen to. I started with the porch camera clip, grainy, mid-evening Derek and two men carrying something. I moved to timestamps, to the chat screenshots, to the ledger Anna had dug up that showed donations from Price Enterprises to community projects that coincidentally got expedited permits at exactly the time their complaints appeared. When the clips rolled, you could hear the murmur sweep the room, the small sound a crowd makes when the princess is no longer certain she's wearing the crown. Evelyn's face hardened like plaster. Derek tried to laugh, the way guilty people laugh, sharp and unmoored. "You're playing nasty, Ben," he said, and there was a swagger in his tone like a man who believed the world owed him an apology. Then Lou stood up, and he didn't ask quietly. He read names. He read dates. He read times when work crews had been seen on that lawn, work crews that, by paper, had been doing community improvements, paid for by the Price Fund. The police arrived a week later, after an anonymous tip and after a county investigator put together the threads we'd been dragging behind us. Warrants followed. There are two kinds of silence in a small town: the evening quiet and the kind that falls when cuffs click. When the deputies escorted Evelyn out in front of her car, her composure slipped. You could see it in the way she'd been practiced in the theater of entitlement, and now there was nothing to perform. Derek got to walk out 2 hours later with a different kind of swagger, one that tries to look like defiance, but smells like fear. I won't lie, justice is not neat. The HOA didn't dissolve overnight. A lot of people still believed Evelyn's version until the evidence stared them in the face. There were hearings, and there were small victories. Bylaw changes, refund checks for ridiculous fines, a new board elected that actually lived on the street. There were also long afternoons where paperwork replaced the quiet we'd lost, where lawyers and inspectors and mediators took away the time we might have spent on the porch. But Maya stopped flinching when a truck drove by. She started riding her bike again. Riley baked a pie like she used to, and for the first time in months, I didn't triple-check the front door before bed. There's a funny human thing I learned: power is logistical. It runs on paperwork and a choir of people willing to nod. Take away the paperwork, put the files under light, and the choir gets embarrassed. That's not noble or romantic, that's just how small tyrannies fall apart. We did it with cameras and phone screenshots and a lot of conversations that felt like pulling a loose thread, one person at a time, until the sweater unraveled. But the story doesn't end with happily ever after. Some of my neighbors still think we overreacted. Some of them still whisper that we made life difficult. Evelyn has supporters who say she was trying to protect property values. Derek is out on bail, and sometimes you see him at the corner store, eyes down. And there's a part of me that understands why people protect the idea of order, even when the order is unjust, because chaos is terrifying and it's easier to believe a polished envelope than a grainy video. That ambiguity is what keeps the comments alive, and honestly, I want people to argue about it. I want someone to tell me I was right, and I want someone else to tell me I crossed a line. That mess of opinions is how communities learn. If there's a line I want to leave you with, it's this: being a neighbor means more than mowing to code and leaving the trash can behind the hedges. It means showing up when someone else is being pushed, even if the push comes with a nice letterhead. It means paying attention to patterns, not stories. And sometimes, it means telling a story loud enough that the people who would erase you have to answer for it. So tell me, what would you have done? Would you have filmed it and fought back the way we did? Or would you have tried to make peace and kept your head down? Drop a comment. Tell your take. Were we heroes or jerks? Was Evelyn a control freak or a protector? I want the messy, the angry, the reasonable everything. And if you like this, share it with someone who lives in a neighborhood that takes itself a little too seriously. We're not done talking about what community should actually mean.